Good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending where you're joining us from. A very nice welcome from sunny Geneva here. And it's my pleasure once again on behalf of the TRC to welcome For Education and Ryan Tannenbaum to another live episode of what I am extremely and very much looking forward to. So without further ado, here is Ryan.
Hey everyone. Yeah, nice to see you again today.
Thank you very much. And I'm going to disappear into the background and let you guys get on with the nitty-gritty of today's show.
Sure. Hey, so I'm here today with Jeremy Roston from the International School of Panama. Hi, Jeremy.
Hi, Ryan. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing really well. Do you want to introduce yourself quickly for anyone who hasn't seen you before?
Of course. So I'm Jeremy Roston. I'm the high school curriculum coordinator at the International School of Panama. I'm an instructional coach as well, and I happen to be helping with AI integration at the school. And I'm lucky enough that Ryan gave me access to Engage for Education. So I guess I'm a power user and beneficiary of the technology.
Yeah, thanks so much. So for those of you who saw the event but don't necessarily know me, I am Ryan Tannenbaum. I worked in international schools for 12 years, or at least taught internationally for 12 years. And the past 3 years, I've been doing my own thing with international schools and building things that I think are interesting. With AI coming out, a year and a bit ago, it's been really interesting to look at where it's going and what the possibilities are, but especially beyond just OpenAI and these big models. What about these local ones like Llama from Meta or Phi from Google, or from Microsoft, sorry, or Gemma's from Google. Then there's Mistral from France, and there's a lot of different ones. So 2 weeks ago, I had a little event where I said, well, why don't we start to explore these models? And I'm really excited to have Jeremy here because he's someone who's not only been exploring these models, he's really been building some pretty interesting stuff with them. And so, Jeremy, do you want to talk a little bit about your experience? I think mostly you've been working with Llama, right?
Right. And so the way it's worked is, so there were two things. Either I wanted to replicate a tool that my teachers would be using, and there are so many different ones that it would be hard for us to pay all of the subscriptions to all of the different platforms. And oftentimes those tools, they're sort of easy to replicate with Engage and with an open source node like Llama. So I would try and see whatever they're using on, whether it's Magic School, whether it's School AI, whatever it is, like, can we create that ourselves with the same level of quality, but even customize it a little bit more for our own use and context? Or would be the other way around, teachers coming to me and with that question, like, do you know an AI that would blah, blah, blah? And oftentimes I do, or I could just look it up, but rather than, again, using 55 different tools, oftentimes it's, well, can you describe to me exactly what you need? And we can probably design a flow on Engage that will do just exactly that. And that has been the case. So we've been able to either replicate the tools or create custom ones for specific needs of our either teachers or students, or actually leaders as well.
Yeah, and so like I've been playing with these open models for a little while. Like before ChatGPT, there were like OBT, I think was one of like the first ones, which if anyone has tried it, like it was so underwhelming. It just like have like one sentence and repeat. Even like GPT-2, which was open source and was really a different class of models. It's really amazing how far they've come. Like now we're talking about Llama 3 and Phi 3, where, a year ago today, like Llama 1 was this huge news. Did you ever try like Llama, the original Llama?
No, I didn't. I played with Da Vinci like right before sort of ChatGPT burst onto the scene. But even with those sort of later models that were much better, the pace at which they get better is crazy. I mean, even jump from GPT 3.5 to GPT-4 and then 4.0 is quite impressive. And what's even more important, I think, is the catching up of the open source models on the proprietary ones to the point that if you know how to use them, you can, I think, outperform the paid models with open source ones.
Yeah. Yeah. And so like one of the conversations I find I have with people, whether they're clients or just casually, is how we like contextualize where these models fit, so like everyone uses like ChatGPT, even my parents have used it. But like these open models, like they're exciting, but there's also sometimes like misunderstood. Because while you can run them on your own computer, you do need like a fairly good computer. And so in some ways they're kind of less accessible than the other models. So, in your opinion, like where do you look at like ChatGPT fitting in your school versus like Llama or something like that?
Right, and so it depends on the use case. That is three considerations. One is the cost, oftentimes, the privacy concern, and so obviously you always want the lowest possible cost and the highest possible privacy, but the trade-off is oftentimes performance, right? So what I try to think about is how sort of cognitively complex is the task, and if it does not involve or complex math or data analysis, then oftentimes an open source model, even a sort of a smaller one, will do the job if you know how to use it well. Now, I have a flow where, so it's speech to text, where it transcribes what you say, and then it sort of polishes and reorganizes what you're saying. So it replicates audio pen. It's a fairly simple task, right? Transcription models work very well. The free ones like Whisper work very well. And then just rephrasing or summarizing, those are fairly simple tasks for which open source models work very well. If I was doing very complex problem solving, then a more performing model would be better, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's cool that you mentioned speech to text, because I think those are models that you really don't necessarily need to pay for. Like the power you can get off even like a mediocre device is insane. There's, to nerd out, there's something called like Willow Inference Studio, I think. But on like my computer, I have a nice video card. It can transcribe an hour of audio in 6 seconds. Like
Wow.
Locally, like off my desktop. So, why would you pay for something beyond that? But you're right that there are like limitations and kind of gaps where they fit in.
Yeah, and actually, it would also depend sort of how much you know about it, or how much you know people who know about it. Because I mentioned code. Actually, you have open source models that are very, very high performing, just that they've been fine tuned for this particular purpose. But then you would know that you would need to know that they exist, and where to find them, and how to run them locally. So among all open source models, there's also a range of how well known they are and how easily accessible they are. Right?
Yeah.
Like Llama 3, you just need with Grok, it's very easy to access compared to other ones.
Yeah, and Llama 3 like 8B, that can run off of like a MacBook Air, like one of the new ones. In my experience, so like I jumped pretty heavily into Llama when it first came out, and I was like fine tuning it, and way back last February, I had a contract to build a report card writer for a platform with AI. And then I was like, okay, well, let's see how Llama can do. And so I fine-tuned Llama on like a huge data set of report cards. Like here's the subject, here's the grade, here's everything. And like the output, the resulting model was such garbage. Like, I learned a lot. Like, for example, you got a 4 in biology, DP biology. So then the teacher's talking about the citric acid cycle or something, or mitochondria. That's not in the prompt. So what it learned was that it just needs to like talk about something, and like it just came up with all this nonsense. I bring that up because with Llama 3, it is a whole different ball game. Like Llama 3, we originally, the banner for this was like vibe checking, but I really felt like it was like when I first started talking to GPT 3.5, like November 2022, where, you ask it a question and it was like, it's on topic. It didn't waffle nearly as much as those earlier open models.
Right, and so I had an experience where, like for this week, I had different flows, and I sort of recreated them with Llama 3. Right, that's what I've been doing with Engage this week, and so there was one that worked very well, which was a unit planner. So it helps teachers go through like they focus on the thinking, and then it does the formatting that in a way where it fits a particular template. And I thought, okay, this one works well, so let me see how it works with Llama 3. So I went back to my flow to change that setting. And turns out it was already running on Llama 3. Like I forgot that I set it up as Llama 3 to begin with. I just assumed it was Claude 3, GPT-4, or whichever. It was actually Llama 3 that was doing a great job.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and I found like, few shotting. So, we're gonna, I think, hop in. I want to see some of this stuff that you've been building, but sometimes put in some stuff like it's not as good as what I expected, but like it's really responsive to few shotting, which if for those listening, if you're not really familiar what that means, what it means is like I give it some examples. Like I want to write a report card, so I fake a conversation where I say like, biology, it's a 4. And then this is the structure, like introductory. This is what we did in class. Then here's the body, and then here's the conclusion. And then I have like 5 of those. So it knows that first paragraph doesn't change. And it's always like, this is what we did in class. Because like they are pattern finding. And so that's what I mean. Like it feels like it's just better trained on data sets. Like I think like the fundamental difference between like the new models and the old models is probably that as a society, I don't know, like these companies at least that are running them, like they're a lot more aware of what good prompting looks like. I think like this prompt engineering development, what are people going to ask the models? What is the kind of response that they're expecting? Like that type of data set and training. I think that's probably where a lot of this development's been happening. So do you want to maybe share some of your screens?
Sure.
Yeah, and you can show us kind of some of the stuff that you've been working on. So for those of you who are watching, just to let you know a little bit, it's Jeremy and I have been using this platform called Engage, which is something that I've been building. It's going to be open source, so when it releases, hopefully within a month or two, you'll be able to deploy it on your own server, run it in your schools. The idea is that teachers, staff, students, if you want to give them permission to, can create their own AI tools. We call them flows because of how this is designed. And Jeremy's now showing us this platform, and then you can share it either publicly or with your class or whomever you want. But I'll hand it over to Jeremy.
Right. So those are some of the examples of the flow that I created with Llama 3. Do you want me to go through the list and then you tell me if there's one in particular that you want to present?
Well, do you want to like choose one that maybe you want to showcase, and then you can just show us like how it works and what your thought process was when you built it?
Okay. So then let's go with this one. Sure. Let me show how it works. So Engage, it's a drag and drop interface, right? So it might seem complex, it's actually very, very easy. And so what this one does is that orange thing here sort of captures your voice. So you're going to think out loud and just talk to your computer. The prompt is going to do the following. So your speech is going to be transcribed to text. So you will have a sort of exact transcription, like verbatim of what you said. And then the prompt says to the AI, whatever the user said, make it more concise, more clear, more organized. That's sent to an AI that executes the task. So that's Llama 3. And then you get, with that second orange thing, the output, which is that transcription. So, do you want to try it? So I'm with Ryan. We are hosting a webinar on an AI platform called Engage. I was very happy to be invited by Ryan. Ryan is the creator of Engage. He's been helping me very much create different flows and with technical aspects. Although the platform is easy to use and allows schools to leverage AI and in particular open source models. Right, so that was not very clear, that was not very organized, it was a bit all over the place. And then you say, so here it gives me exactly what I said, and then here it's telling me, here's how you could have done it, or here's how you could say that in a more concise and organized way. So I'm collaborating with Ryan, the creator of Engage, an AI platform that he's helped develop with various features and flows. We're hosting a webinar, and I'm thrilled to be invited. The platform is user-friendly, enabling schools to utilize AI, particularly open source models. Right. So that's one example of, you can pay for that functionality with a tool like AudioPen. It's very expensive. You cannot pay per month. It's only per year. It's like $90 per month, per year. Or you can replicate basically the same thing and even use, in this case, Llama 3, which does a great job. Like the transcription is correct, and it did a good job of maintaining the meaning, but polishing the phrasing.
Yeah, that's cool. And this is using Whisper, but there's a new model that I don't remember what it's called. I saw it came from Hugging Face. They're posting this week, but it can recognize speakers.
Right.
So, yeah, what's awesome is that's like Otter AI or something. But if you're having a confidential meeting, in your school, you can leverage these open models to not only record it, do a transcription, separate by speaker, but also summarize it. And it can be entirely confidential because it never leaves your computer. Yeah,
it's called diarization, something like that, right? Where you can tell different voice.
Yeah.
So there are some other good examples here. This one, for instance, it looks more complex, but it's like anything. Your first flow is going to be very easy, and then each flow you try to make it a bit more complex. So it's like for you, it's a challenge and an exciting thing. So what this one does is it replaces all of the tools that you would find on a platform like Magic School. Many of my teachers use Magic School, but as of right now, I think they have 80 different tools, right? Sort of very task-specific apps. Like this one is to write jokes. This one is to create a starter activity. This one is for an exit ticket. So that becomes overwhelming, right? So what this one does is the user starts by saying, okay, here's what I need. So I need an AI that writes a joke or that creates a starter activity, whatever the use case is. The AI is going to write a system prompt. So essentially it's going to create an AI that is specialized in this particular kind of tasks, and then you're going to complete your task. So essentially it's one-stop shop where the flow itself creates the flow that you need. And again, for most of what teachers are doing with AI, which is actually very easy for the AI to do, Llama 3 is more than sufficient.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Do you want to show us one example, just to kind of contextualize it? And just while you're getting that ready, we had a question from Anthony reply. So Anthony, you can actually run Whisper locally, the best models to run locally on even I think a Raspberry Pi can run some of those models. But OpenAI, if you want them to do it, it is a sixth of a cent, so less than 1 cent, almost like half of 1 cent for a minute. So, if you do 100 minutes, it's going to cost you 60 cents or so. My math is right. Okay, sorry, do you want to show us, Jeremy?
Yeah, of course. Well, so here, the first question is, what kind of AI tool do you need? So there's no right or wrong way to prompt it. We're like here to say, I need to create a starter activity. And then so I could upload a file if I had a lesson plan or whatever. But then he's asking more so specifically what you need. So I'm going to say grade 9 math lesson on trigonometry. And so as you can see, it gives me, because I didn't do such a good job of prompting it, so it tells me, okay, well, here are learning objectives which you should have as a teacher. And then here's your starter activity. Here's how you can make it work, how you can customize it. And if it doesn't do exactly what I want, then I can go and chat with it to ask for like edits.
Yeah. Yeah, and I really like that, like, just ability to create and then iterate and design. To speak more broadly, like the way my thinking has very dramatically changed about using AI systems. Before I was really results oriented, like I want this product, but now I really spend a lot of time like reflecting on how would I do this as a person, and how can I build these steps and checks so that I co-create with these AI systems, and we are like establishing the principle. Okay, what do I want in my lesson plan? What's most important? Where do I want this lesson to lead? Is it more teacher-led or student-led, etc.? And having that dialogue during it can be really helpful.
Absolutely. And let me try here. Just do this very quick. So, so I have a couple interesting ones. One that one I think is interesting to show is this one, because it compares. Or do you want to wait before we compare ChatGPT 4 and Llama 3?
Mm-hmm.
Do you need to show? Or do you want to wait?
Yeah, or we can talk about it just also. Okay. I mean,
so this particular one. So what it does is it's based on Leon Fers's latest book on practical AI strategies, and then my own thinking. So what it does is, as a teacher, you say, okay, here's the assessment that I've been using for many years, and I'm concerned that students might now misuse AI to complete this assessment. So, sorry, how can I redesign the assessment to both prevent AI misuse, but also leverage the potential of AI, right? And so in this flow, it's going to run the same prompt through ChatGPT 4o and Llama 3, and then it outputs the two to compare. And we'll see if it works, but the results show a distinct pattern, I think. So here I'm going to say, let's say we'll take an obvious example. So English, take-home essay on Catcher in the Rye. I should do a better job than that, but it doesn't really matter. So English grade 11, take-home essay on Catcher in the Rye.
Cool. And I like that idea of doing both next to each other, because otherwise, how do you really know about quality?
And so on the left-hand side, you have ChatGPT 4o, and then right hand side is Llama 3. And so that there's two things that I find when I compare them. One is they are actually fairly similar, just because they follow the prompt quite closely. So like for instance here, if you were to compare how students might misuse AI on the left and on the right, it's actually very similar. The other thing though is, we'll see if it's the case here. Yeah, it is the case. So sometimes those sort of state-of-the-art model like ChatGPT 4o, they're so powerful that I would say they're almost too powerful. And so here, it almost gives you sort of too much. So for instance, in the prompt, I give all those different ways in which you can redesign your assessment. And ChatGPT 4o, it always gives you everything, right? Where Llama 3 is going to be more selective here. It's, as you can see, the output is much shorter, and it sort of focuses on the most, like gives you the top K, right? It gives you the most relevant responses. So for instance here, it's going to give me like a few ideas, like why don't you do a visual essay? Or why don't you have milestones where you do regular check-ins between when you assign the work and when you grade it? Or here, have them do a, like almost like a diary, like a journal where they document their process, right? So you have like 2-3 key ideas that you can leverage. Where here, with ChatGPT 4o, I'm going to have everything, like the in-class presentation, the critiquing an AI essay. So those are all great ideas, but it's, I could see for some teachers that it might almost be too much, right?
Yeah, it's overwhelming. One of my most common things in the prompts is like, keep this 2 sentences, like answer only with yes or no. Like just, I don't need an essay for every single one. I think that's really interesting. Out of curiosity, are you using Llama 3 8 billion or is 70 billion for this?
So it depends on the flow. This one is 70B, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. So just for those of you who are joining us, like the 8 billion one, that you can run on your laptop most likely. The 70 billion one, most likely not. You'll need pretty powerful hardware to run that. But this system, we're using Grok, which is a cloud-based platform that lets us really quickly generate content with these. Cool. Did you want to talk a little bit more about this, or can I also share an example?
Yeah, go ahead. I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Cool. So yeah, it's I think really cool what Jeremy was sharing. What I'm going to show or try to show is a flow that I created, and this one is really simple. It's called Llama Plans, and it just writes lesson plans. I didn't build it because I think writing lesson plans is either like the best or most exciting way of using AI. But, my history, the first real international school that I worked at was a British Columbian curriculum international school in China, in Nanning, Guangxi. And that's not a very well represented curriculum. And so like, if I ask GPT 3.5 or 4 or any tool they're using this like Magic School or any of those guys to come up with Common Core or IB standards for me, they do a really good job. If I ask it to come up with BC curriculum standards for me, it doesn't. It kind of waffles. It comes up with things that just are not part of the British Columbian curriculum. So what I was thinking was like, okay, well, what if I created a lesson plan generator where I can say, I'm teaching grade 10, we'll do, the topic is Catcher in the Rye, reading and looking at character motivations. So it's always like a little bit of a risk when you're doing these things live. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to upload a file. I'm going to upload the English 10 ELA literary studies from the BC government, and I'm going to hit next, and hopefully it's going to align with those. So I can see immediately like it's talking about first people societies and as they're represented in texts, which is a very, very important part of the curriculum. Catcher in the Rye might not be the best example for either of these, but I know that it is trying to at least connect to those standards. And then it's got my lesson plan here where we're talking about alienation, and maybe like that's where the teacher can make the connection. What I think is really interesting about Llama, potentially, or just maintaining your own control over the type of systems you're using and how you're using it, is that if I am a principal, which I was at the BC school, I can provide my teachers with tools that leverage my curriculum, my context, my individual school's mission and vision, my organization's specific requirements, and go from there. So one thing that we haven't talked about very much yet, but a big part of interest around these models is around fine-tuning them and actually building models that are, they call them SLMs, small language models, that are built around like your specific organizational context. Right now, I didn't fine-tune a model, I didn't train it, but I did prompt it so that it is very much aligned to what I want, or what my organization in this case would have needed. And so I think like that's a really interesting use case of, as we'd call I think the previous one, owning your own AI and owning your own AI processes. So yeah, can 70B run on a Docker that in turn runs on a VM with enough CPU and RAM? So yeah, I mean, if you have the compute, then you can run 70B. I can give you guys some shorthand about this. So basically, when you see a model, Llama 3 8B, what does that mean? It means you need to run the model as it is. You need 16 gigabytes of video RAM, or if you're on a Mac with unified memory, 16 gigabytes of dedicated RAM to run that. So a 70B model, you need 140 gigabytes of dedicated RAM. And like if you're running video cards, like a GT or an RTX 4090, which is like the top of the line consumer card, has 24 gigabytes of RAM. So you need like 8 video cards, and those are like $2,000 a pop. So it's expensive. If you were looking at like 70B, you would need probably like an A100 cluster, which runs about $8 an hour if you're running it like on AWS. So the pricing is quite high. When we're talking about like vibes, and I kind of want to get your take on this, Jeremy, but what I found was that the smaller models are good if you give it the context, like especially if I'm doing something reproducible, like that lesson plan that I just did, like that's making a lesson plan. Here's the standard, here's the format, here's the standards to build it off of. It's fine for that. When you want the bigger models, when you want GPT-4, it's when you don't really know what you're talking about. Like I want to get some information. I don't have the context, and the model's got to build that. That's my like shorthand, my vibe check. What do you think, Jeremy?
I agree, and it's even more so the case because one added like functionality with those, not just the small models, but a platform like yours, is you can customize the flow, right? So if you need something that is very specific, that means you will need to have a lot of input. You need to give the context, because even a very large model would not know this context of your school or this curriculum as you described. So if you need to give a lot of context, if you need to upload documents, you need to have good prompt, you need to have different steps in your flow, then you're giving so much to the small model that the task itself, like the processing, the cognitive processing, is not that complex.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you mentioned that at the beginning. If it's a relatively simple task, then the small models are quite good. I really liked your example. So like the last thing we were kind of going to talk about was, the new hotness, GPT-4o, and like these Google models. How do they stack up? And a question that people ask me fairly often is like, what model do I use? And my answer is like, I don't know, try them all, and it's a balance. I mean, normally if you're looking at a paid model, my go-to is Haiku because it's so fast, so cheap. Like the quality, like it's a tenth the price of GPT 3.5, but the quality seems better generally. And like 99% of the time, it's good enough for me.
Yeah.
Like I think Haiku, just for context, is like it's 1 million tokens, which is like, let's say 80,000 pages of content for I think 50 cents. Like it's insane, Whereas like GPT 4.0 that's going to cost you $10.
Right. That really depends on the use case. So I do use Haiku quite a bit for the reasons that you explained. I very much like Gemini 1.5 Pro because of the very large context window. So with the 1 million context window, that's like 15 whatever it is, like 1,500 pages or whatever it is, even probably more than that. So we have use cases at the school where kids analyze videos, or for my own use, I might have like 10 different books that I want to compare or summarize, whatever. So when I have those very large amounts of data to process, I find Gemini 1.5 Pro to be very, very effective. GPT 4.0, we'll see. We know that it's coming for free to everybody, right? It's rolling out right now. But my understanding is with the free account, there's only some, like you can only use it so much per, I think you have 40 requests per 3 hours or whatever it is, right? So that might not be enough for, if you use it for professional purposes, like as a teacher, you might need more than 40 turns to do what you have to do. And in that case, that might be a case where you end up having to pay for it. And then it's very expensive because $20 per teacher or 25 if you have a Teams account. That's not something that a school could scale for 50 or 100 different teachers. So.
Yeah. So use the API through Engage. No, it's so I guess not to shill, but like one of the reasons why I wanted to build Engage was just like I've used the APIs a lot. Like I've opened up this platform to 150 people over the last month, and like the cost to me, again, like if you deploy it, you can deploy it at no cost. You're just paying the API costs. So I think it was like $25 last month maybe, and that's like with all these people using it. I've run scripts that nonstop for 40 days, like I've called OpenAI, and it cost me $30. It's really interesting because any platform outside of like Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini, like actually you're paying to use that, they're using the API anyways, and they're paying those fees. And so really like the scalability, if you are at a school or an organization where you have the power to communicate directly with the API, like not only does it lower your like threat it lowers your perimeter, because your data is not going to some third-party platform. It's just going directly to the AI system that it would be going to anyways. The cost it's on demand. It depends on what you do. To kind of loop back to Jeremy's point, like, and this is something that comes up a fair bit when I talk about Llama and like these local models, is that like it sounds great, it sounds like it'll be cheap, but you do the math on like $8 an hour to run Llama 70B locally, like you're gonna be paying a lot of money for that, like an awful lot of money to kind of scale out these. So it is a really interesting balance of where they fit in, but no less exciting.
Right, and I mean the API is a great option. Like we had last week a teacher, because I'm also an instructional coach at the school. So I had a teacher come to my office at lunch and telling me, okay, I need help for my like coming period. So we have 30 minutes. I want the kids to get one-on-one feedback on their, like it was chemistry thing. So like we brainstormed, and what we ended up doing was feeding the assignment to, like creating a flow, feeding the assignment, and saying the student is going to explain to you one question they got wrong, and you have to explain to them what they did wrong, but not like don't give them the correct answer. And so we had this like activity where they work one-on-one with the bot, and like it was quicker for us to brainstorm what do we need and design the flow than it would have been to go on Google and look for a tool that exists and that does it, right?
Yeah.
And obviously much cheaper because we had with the API access to, I think I used 4.0 for that purpose. Any of the tools, any of the like wrapper tools that we have access to, you oftentimes have a free tier, but the free tier oftentimes runs on 3.5, and then you have to pay to have access to more performing models. So at a much cheaper cost, we had access to the highest performing model, which we could like customize to exactly what we needed, and it took like the brainstorming and creating the flow to 20 minutes.
Yeah, it's awesome. Cool. Well, kind of on that note, if it's okay, what I was thinking we could do, if there are people who are interested, is we can start to explore the platform a little, and if people want to dip their feet into Engage, we're going to share a Google Meet link that you can come and join us. Maybe in about 2 or 3 minutes, we can just wrap this up. But thanks a lot, Jeremy. I mean, I always enjoy talking to you. That's why I'm so happy to have you on, because, it's really about just being experimentative, exploring what's going on. I've said it a lot, but like I'm always wrong when I have a hypothesis about what the AI can do. The answer is always more interesting and nuanced. I will say like I'm wrong a bit less now because I've been wrong, like a couple of 100,000 times already. I've got a good idea of the ways that I've erred before. So thanks so much for joining us. Do you have any final thoughts you want to share?
No, but first of all, thank you for inviting me and having me. It's always great to talk to you. And I don't want to sound cheesy, but thank you for creating the platform and giving me and us at ASP access. We're using it quite a bit and learning a lot in the process.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's really great to hear. And for anybody else who wants to join, I'm sharing it now. So there is the link. I'm going to hop into that Google Meet in about 1 or 2 minutes. And so if you'd like to explore the platform, whether you have an account or you don't have an account, feel free to join. It'd be really nice to have you there. Thank you to the Technology Readiness Council for also helping us promote and host this. They are very, very cool. If you want to look at how they can support your school towards really anything that you might need around technology implementation, it's a group of experienced leaders who it's a nonprofit whose mission is to help schools deliver high quality, safe education that drives teaching and learning forward, as well as providing just state-of-the-art compliance, security, etc. So please check them out. And I hope we'll see you in the Google Meet or on our next talk in a couple of weeks. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.